Hello and welcome to the March monthly update for Utilico Emerging Markets Trust plc. I'm Jacqueline Broers, Joint Portfolio Manager. March's NAV total return was down by 3.1%, underperforming the MSCI Emerging Markets Total Return Index, which declined by 1.8% in sterling terms. This takes UEM's 12 months NAV total return performance as at the 31st of March to being down by 2.9%. Underperforming the MSCI Index, which was up by 5.7%. March continued to witness increased volatility on the back of heightened uncertainty around US trade tariffs. We saw Trump announcing import tariffs on Mexico and Canada, followed by an additional 10% tariff on China, before ending the month with 25% tariffs on automobiles. The market, though, is waiting to see what the reciprocal tariffs, to be announced on the 2nd of April, Liberation Day, might look like. US and global growth expectations were subsequently dampened, which has led to the S&P 500 index being down by 5.8% for the month and the NASDAQ being down 8.2%. Against this uncertain backdrop, emerging markets performed relatively well. Within Asia, the Hong Kong Hang Seng Index was up by 0.8%, whilst the Chinese Shanghai Composite Index was up by 0.4%, both encouraged by China's new consumption plans and higher fiscal deficit ratio targets announced at the National People's Congress. India was the outperformer in the region, with the Sensex index up by 5.8%, while the Philippines market was up 3% and the Indonesian market up by 3.8%, clawing back some of the losses witnessed in the first 2 months of the year. Vietnam was essentially flat for the month, up by 0.1%, whilst the Thai Set index was down by 3.8% and the Malaysian index was down by 3.9%. Latin America also performed well. The Brazilian market was up 6.1%, benefiting from being relatively less exposed to potential US reciprocal tariffs, as well as the market reacting positively to the continued deterioration in President Lula's approval rating. Argentina was up by 6%, whilst the Chilean market increased by 4.3%. Within Eastern Europe, the Polish market was up 3.7%, reacting positively to Germany unveiling historic fiscal stimulus and the EU exempting defence spending from deficit limits. Sterling strengthened against most currencies, gaining 2.5% against the US dollar and appreciating around 2% against the Chinese RMB, the Indian rupee, the Mexican peso and the Vietnamese dong. Sterling appreciated 6.5% against the Turkish lira, as the lira was affected by the key opponent of President Erdogan being detained on corruption charges. Looking at UEM's portfolio, there were no new companies into the top 30 holdings in March. Portfolio performance, though, was mixed. Aguas Andinas, the largest sanitation company in Chile, was up by 9%, benefiting from reported solid operational results in 4Q24, with positive hydrology expected in 2025. Ocean Wilson's was up by 8% on the back of an announcement of a 20% tender offer for the shares, using proceeds obtained from the sale of its stake in Wilson Sons. Piraeus Port Authority was also up by 7.4% on the back of strong 2H24 results. The decliners for the month were Sunny Vision, down by 20.9%, as investors took some profit on the back of strong share price performance over the last 6 months. Impost was also down by 18.6% despite strong fourth quarter results, as investors have become concerned about growing domestic competitive pressures, whilst FPT was down 13.8% on the back of investor concerns on the upcoming Liberation Day. UEM's debt position increased marginally by 1.1% over the month to 17.6 million. UEM's share price decreased by 3.1% in March, ending the month at 216 pence, with a discount to NAV decreasing from 16.8% to 16%. UEM continued to buy back shares, with total shares bought back for the year to 31st of March 2025 being 4.3 million, equivalent to 2.3% of the share capital as at the 31st of March 2024. For more details, please do read UEM's March fact sheet, which is available on our website.